20. Okay, so hello everyone. This is our continuing series of mastering the art of singing, and I invited today an old colleague of mine. As a matter of fact, that we've had kind of a parallel universe as far as some of our early training and things went. Um, and she's now residing, and we're talking to us from Toronto. You live right in Toronto? Or you live outside of town?
Actually, I moved out of Toronto. I'm down in Welland, down near Niagara Falls.
Ah, that's where you're. I know you notice you're some involved some singers called Niagara Singers. I wondered about that. You're kind of
Yeah,
Niagara.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um,
yeah.
anyway, so yes. Anyway, to expand upon this, anyway, it's just that we had some early things on. I don't know all everything that Cindy and sometimes I might refer to her as Cindy Joe, but did early in life. Cindy Ellis, Cindy Joe Ellis, Cindy. We met when we were doing. We were music majors in Clark College, and that's how I first met Cindy because we're on that parallel universe of music study. And there, we're involved in choir and madrigal. And I've said some of my earlier uh, episodes where I did solo installments of mastering the art of singing that things to do, bring yourself as a singer. And one thing I recommended was madrigals. If you can do any kind of a cappella kind of experience is really good because you really have to become, not reliant upon the piano or instruments to fling the notes out for you. You actually have to carry that melody by itself, and that was one really good thing. And also something we had in common was we both got to meet and work with George Bill, and I referred to him as probably where I really learned a lot about musicianship because he was the guy who just really focused on the dynamics of what the language of music. If it had a dynamic sound, this, that, and the other thing, a lot of times he was just to blow on through it, make it all sound the same. But he just really sharp tuned every little thing and taught us, this is what this means, this is what this means. The guy wrote it because of this because of that. So, and I learned a lot about that. So, but so before we met at the college, and there we studied voice. I know we had Elizabeth Ferris as a teacher. We also
Mhm.
had Bernetta Mazzolini for a little while. I think was her name.
I don't
Um,
remember her.
yeah, she
Okay,
kind of came and went. Wasn't there a
okay.
lot, but before that, did you ever have voice study before you came to Clark
Actually,
College?
I did. Yeah. Like, music with me goes way back. My dad played organ. He had a Hammond organ in
Yeah,
the
I remember that.
house. And we also had a Packard Bell record player slash record cutter back in the day and radio. It was all one unit. Anyway, they loved to listen to the old stuff of the 40s and 50s, swing stuff and vocals and crooners and all that. And Dad played that kind of music. So I think I had it in my blood from him. Really, it's in my DNA somehow. Uh, but yeah, so I used to sing at the drop of a hat, and Mom would stick this microphone from our Packard Bell thing and say, "Sing something so Daddy can hear it when he comes home." And so I did, and not always, because when the record was cutting, it made hair, it pulled hair off of either the black record or the paper record. So as a toddler and a 4-year-old, we were all concerned about the hair on the record. So we did a lot of talking. Like, what's that? You hear a lot of nonsense on the record. Anyway, but before that, I had a lot of people that influenced my vocal uh, interest, I think. Right down to elementary school. Miss Laura Sherwood traveled and taught us songs by rote for grade school at Washington Elementary. Um, and I had a great piano teacher, Irma Durdall, that I didn't appreciate at all while I was with her. But she noticed my ear, I think, because she taught me theory by ear. She'd take me to the chalkboard and teach me interval or inversions of chords and how to listen and hear tendency tones like 7 goes to 1, 5 goes to 6, and, kind of really helped me hear how chords resolved with numbers. That was it. And then my first real voice teacher was Bob Conrad. He taught choir at Hudson Bay High. And when I was in music and in the choir at Lewis Junior High, that's where I went to junior high. I wanted to get into the choir when I got to high school. So I asked, and he was also our church choir director at the time at the First United Methodist place. I asked him if he would teach me voice lessons for a while so that I could be ready. And he did. But at that point, maybe I wasn't ready. It was too big a leap. And when he said, stick your stomach out when you breathe, I thought you had to stick your stomach out physically, not let it go. So it wasn't till years later I learned that. In fact, many, maybe 40 years later. So, of course, from Dorothy Fisher-Jones, I learned quite a bit about opera. Dorothy Fisher-Jones School of Opera and Related Arts, I think it was called, in Portland. You and I both studied with her. She taught me a lot. The main thing she taught me was I was trying to sound like somebody, and she knew right away who it was. And she says, so you want to be like Bubbles. What was her name? She was an opera singer. Really, I idolized her. And I said, yeah, and I was in tears and everything. And she says, you be you. And you get used to the feels. And I thought, right. But I had to learn what that meant. I think, there's some wisdom to be gained from years, I think. So, I think, and of course, George Bell was my mentor when we were there at Clark College. I remember he taught us the art through madrigals of making pure tones, and at that time I did my best to do that, but I've learned a lot more about how to do it by now. But it really did sharpen our ear. And I can remember when we did Fauré's Requiem. That was my favorite work that we performed. I think it was our second year, maybe. Anyway, so then, golly, I had so many people. At the church where I was in the adult choir there was a lady, Louise Alline, who taught at, I want to say Jason Lee Junior High. Was there a Jason Lee? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Anyway, she taught choir there, but she was the youth choir leader, so she taught us a lot about voice production. And I was getting it from wherever. So when I graduated high school, though, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was in nursing for a while. I in high school was a candy striper. So I went for that initial interview at Clark College, and they said, okay, where do you want to focus your attention? And one of the guidance counselors says, what did you do in your spare time? So I said, well, that's no-brainer music. So he sent me to George Bell. And the rest is history there. But I had an old couple who used to come to our house, and he would play piano and bring a plywood board underneath and play, I don't know what that would be, honky tonk. So he had a ball. But he and his wife took me to my first symphony concert at the Oregon Symphony over in Portland. And then, of course, there was Dorothy. But so fast forward through all the choirs that I sang through up here. I sang in about 4 different choirs up here. Kind of graduated. I took myself, honed my interest, gradually getting to Chorus Niagara. It's conducted by Robert Cooper. What interested me was I went to hear them do Fauré's Requiem in 2007. And we had to sit in this church. Was, how some churches have the pews out here, and then the transepts have pews too on each side of the altar. So we were there, and they were full, so we sat over on the one side, but that meant I could see his face and how he conducted, and see he did minimal conducting and got huge dynamic response from, just like George Bell. It was uncanny. And he was a short guy too. He is a short guy. So anyway, I auditioned for that choir, and it has been such a gift to be there. Such a gift. And still, I didn't have my voice centered yet. And this was in 2007, so we're getting on in years. And then COVID hit, and I found Eric Whitaker. I don't know are you familiar with Eric Whitaker?
Yes, that virtual choir stuff, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was looking for what he was calling Virtual Choir 6, but he wrote a piece that was inspired by the angst that everybody was feeling about being stuck and not knowing when we were going to be unstuck, and musicians need to get together and couldn't. The technology hadn't caught up because you can't perform together on Zoom. The timing just is all out of whack. So he wrote this piece, and he'd already had other virtual choirs. So he was really a master at. He put it out for anybody. So he was a master at teaching how to record your voice at home, and he would have soundtracks with the score with him conducting in one corner, and you would. It was a click track type thing. So you would practice and practice and get yourself a backdrop and record your part to the rhythm of his directing. Anyway, it was called Sing Gently. It's on YouTube. It is gorgeous. Anyway, that was my first virtual choir. But that led me, somebody in that choir belonged to the stay-at-home choir in London, UK. So I looked them up, and they have 2 conductors there that are still there. One is a girl, her name's Tori Longdon, world-renowned choir director now. And the other is Jamie Wright, and he sings with the Swingles, formerly the Swingle Singers, but he's a Swingle. So they had such amazing technique and ways of teaching you their technique. It was amazing. And I've even got I thought about some of the things if I could share some of his technique. One of the things he mentioned was, now this was Tori, she said, okay, I want to tell you that the IQ of a very good singer is about 20. And she said, that is to say, you drop your jaw. And if you sing like this, you're going to have everything relaxed. And I thought, that's so basic. And then Jamie said, breathing is natural. It isn't made. So many singers think they have to do things to breathe. Just breathe. And he said, I have a good trick, which is the 5-pound breath. They have pounds instead of dollars over there. So he says, so you're walking down the street and you see a 5-pound note. What's your response? He says, if it's me, I go, ah. He says, and that's all the breath you need. You need a happy, ah. But you don't vocalize it. You just, and that's all the breath that you need if you're relaxed. That type of breathing with a relaxed just lifts you so that you're ready to sing. And I thought, wow, that's kind of neat. And then there was another thing that he used for longer phrases. And he said, you take a breath, but you imagine you have a belt of noses around your middle. And you breathe through your belt of noses. So you just breathe, and it's relaxed, and it carries you as long as you've done your core exercises. So those things were invaluable. And here I am, like almost 50 years later, going, aha, ah. And placement happened because of that. So, yeah, it's been a neat ride. It's been an amazing. It's like the lotus petals, one by one they come off, and you kind of go, oh, and then you go, oh, again, and then, oh.
Well,
So
it's
if
like
that makes any sense.
if you're I think what they say, like a true amateur, is you think that means, oh, that means you don't make any money. No, to me, it's like it's a true kind of who truly loves what they do, and if you love what you do, you're always looking for a better way of doing something. You're always trying to make this a little better, like that a little better, and that's a lifetime thing, I think. And so I understand that kind of thing a lot. I still pick up stuff when I hear singers sometimes. I picked up even an intro full from his name is Masri. He's a Canadian singer, Mark Masri, I think his name is. You're familiar with him?
I haven't heard of him, but yeah.
But anyway, he did a PBS special. It's recorded, uh, called "It Must Have Been Love." And it was a PBS special like thing, and it's just you got to go see that on YouTube. But I learned
Oh,
stuff with just watching. His voice is not my kind of voice; it's a higher voice, but the way he kind of swirls around in some intervals and stuff, it's just beautiful. I mean, the song, the way his rendition of it is beautiful. The original, a lot of times are good, but some people like him come along and just make it even better. That his version
hmm,
was really good, and so I mean,
yeah.
I picked up this. I was singing one day on the canal, and I heard a little something. I went, I learned that from him. It's
It's
just
nice.
kind of weird that way. One of our
Yeah.
gondoliers too was 100% Italian guy named Giuseppe, and he had steady voice early on in Italy. And there was one time where he actually sometimes, they teach you when you study classically is not to swoop. You don't swoop up to your notes and stuff like that. But he had a way of doing it that made it beautiful. I mean, it was just one little thing he had in his voice that was just unique, and I picked it up the way I do. Non ti scordarmi is like I just add that kind of little element to the end of the song. Is just how he just reaches up for the high note and makes it a musical little journey up and down. It's just like pick things up like that anyway. So
Yeah.
I'd like to insert here for those listening that yeah, Cindy's sharing some really good things here and tips about breathing and stuff. It's like we try to throw a lot of little nuggets in these that you can kind of pick from and and kind of add what it is you're doing. It's like you may have had troubles with this, that, and the other thing, or didn't even understand the importance of breathing until you run out of gas sometime and you'll realize, well, hell, there must be something else I can do here. But yeah, also keep in mind is that for those people who are out there who sometimes think that it's really hard to balance every aspect of your life. And what Cindy's done here, which I think is a really good example, is that she's managed to do all this and be active at all these things and raise a family at the same time. You have two daughters,
Two daughters.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you got a husband, so that's probably your third child, right? Probably, but
Yeah.
oh,
Basically. Oh, right on.
I'm a guy. I understand these things. She used to do a lot of taking care of me too. I mean, it was like I swear you're always 5 steps ahead of me all the time. You gave me stuff when I really before I even realized I knew. It was like, oh, well, this girl is smart. But
No.
anyway,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, it was tricky because I did have to drop out of choir while, of course, giving birth and being pregnant. And then the toddler years, I just didn't go back for a few years.
yeah,
But, uh, but I was glad I did. And I think my kids liked that too.
yeah, they've had a rich household. Their husband's pretty much a level on a concert pianist kind of level, isn't he? Pretty much.
Well, he was a teacher for years.
Yeah.
And now that he's retired, he has a duet partner, and they did a concert last year. Yeah, that was kind. And they did a concert to raise money for the charity for the homeless. We have a couple homeless. We have a food bank here, and then we have a what's called Hope Center, and they raised over $3,000 just in an afternoon. So that was neat. So they're going to do it again this year.
That's cool.
But yeah,
Well, a
so
couple
it was
things
nice.
I want to
Hmm.
also interject here is one, I don't want to miss this, so I don't want to forget about this. Um, I have a lot of people, and I do gondoliering still, and I have people that pop in from Toronto pretty regularly, actually, And I'll say, I'll make it. He says, yeah. He says, I know a gal. I understand. I know the gal. that when the Olympic torch was being passed through Canada, and when it came to Toronto, yeah, my colleague and friend CJ, she actually got to sing at that ceremony anyway. So yeah, where was
Yeah,
that? Where
yeah,
was
we
that
do that.
exactly? Kind of flesh that
That
out.
was
What
with
was that exactly? How that came
Well,
out.
it was with Chorus Niagara. Actually, I'd been in
Oh,
Chorus Niagara by then, and we were asked to sing at the passing of the torch in Niagara Falls. It was on stage at an outdoor stage in Niagara Falls, and so we sang. What did we sing? Well, we sang "O Canada" for one. I can't remember what we sang. That was many years ago.
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
But it was a thrill. We all got Canada toques and mitts, so that was kind of fun. You know, the stocking cap.
Oh, cool.
That was neat. Yeah, and but again, too, you talk about trying to make money out of singing. You know, you and I did Singogram Northwest there for a while, and then I moved, and the only way I could get into Canada if I did not want to marry somebody to do, and that's using somebody. So, and I didn't know if that was a possibility. So I started Singogram Toronto. And I did it for 5 years, burned myself out because it was in Toronto. It's such a busy city. It's like New York of the North. That's why we moved down to Welland to raise a family. Oh, ugh. Anyway, but it was great. I hired a fellow who to this day is an opera singer, but I didn't know it then. But so we had one guy with top hat and tails that would deliver to the women if that's what was requested, and I filled in the rest of the singing. Oh, and then we had an Italian guy at one point too. But I got to meet people that I never would have, like Al Waxman, you know, the actor. I delivered a singing telegram to him. Not really. Maybe it's just a Canadian actor. He was on some drama detective show back in the 80s.
Hmm.
I don't know. And the premier of Ontario, be like the governor, didn't know that. I was glad nobody told me what he really was all about. I just went to the government building and delivered the singing telegram, and got found out later it was him.
We know.
So yeah, so I had and some different character actors I met too here in Toronto. So
So you
it
hired.
was
You said you hired some people would do specifically just writing too for those singing
I
programs.
hired. Oh yeah, I hired. I told you her name, didn't I? I
Yeah,
wrote it down. Um, shoot. Anyway,
it was in
yeah,
our
she was one of our
Facebook message.
writers.
It was in our Facebook message.
Yeah,
We
I
wrote it
see
down
it.
there.
Yeah. Da, 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 da. What was her name? Well, Lisa Lambert. That's right. She became one of our writers, and she was great because I just couldn't. It was very busy. Um, Valentine's Day
Oh yeah.
was did not belong to me. It belonged to 15 people that we had 15 telegrams to deliver, and Toronto is so big that I could only guarantee a 45-minute time span of delivery because it's too big to get around. It's huge. But anyway, she did a great job. And years later, she got a Grammy, I think it was, for The Drowsy Chaperone. And I heard Lisa Lambert, and I thought, whoa, I gave her start. Whoa. So that was kind of cool. That was
Yeah, that's
cool.
real cool.
That
That's a
was,
really cool thing. Yeah, we
um,
were skipping over that, but yeah, one of the many benefits of having Cindy for a friend was is that I want to apply. I got this notion that I worked as a singing waiter, and that was an okay thing, except for I excelled at the singing part, but waiting that really complicated my singing a lot because it's trying to everybody wanted you to sing, but it's like you got so many tables, they're all at different places at different times, and you're trying to
oh,
get everything to everybody, and they want everything, but they still want you to sing, and it's a rough hoe to hoe. But so anyway, the first one of the first singing telegram companies came around. It's called National. They call themselves National Onion, I think. at the time, or Western Union
Oh,
first, and
yeah,
then they had to change their name to National Union because it was too close
that's
to Western
right.
Union, so they had to change their name. But I went to apply to them, and I was so full of enthusiasm about I wanted a job so badly, And I was telling them, hey, if you want to get going Vancouver, let's cross the river from here. I'll be happy to, work with you and something up. And they kept looking at me rather peculiar the whole time I was in this interview, and it kind of I knew it was just the interview wasn't going right. I just didn't know what the problem was. And then when I left, I was walking out the door to my car, and I realized, oh my goodness, they must have thought I was just there to pick their brain, and I'm just, gonna horn in on their business and that sort of thing. And I thought, oh, that's just not really the message I was trying to get across at all. And then I
Hmm.
decided, you know what? If they call me, I'm gonna go all 100% into this thing. But you know what? If they don't call me, maybe that's not such a bad idea. So
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't call me, and that was that. And I thought, well, I'm just gonna start this thing up. But thank goodness, I mean, I had was kind of like I say the lightning rod for getting the whole thing going. But Cindy really knew how to really put legs on it, like how you operate as a business and how you work. And I heard Reba McEntire say something one time. She said there was a guy early in her career named Red Stengel. He says you treat your career as a business, and it'll take care of you. He said if you take care of it like a business, take care of you. And so
Hmm.
that, really made it a viable thing that it wasn't just something I did this week and lost interest and moved on to something else. It worked. And the way it happened too was is that somebody went out to interview me when I was a singing waiter, and they asked about what are things I do. And I said, well, I was thinking about starting up this singing telegram business. Well, people started calling me. I don't know how they got my number right. They started calling me and they wanted messages already. I hadn't even set anything up yet because I was thinking about, pre-setting up messages, how you do, and you hire this one, here, that one. You just hire it, they go out, put your name on it. And I said, well, shoot, I don't really have anything ready yet, but I tell you, well, just tell me about the person. I just started asking questions about the person, and 90% of the time it was birthdays and it's or anniversaries, and so I would just get information. I just made something up, and that's basically how it all got started. Where it was entirely a customized kind of Sing Around Northwest was pretty much all custom made
Hmm.
messages. We had little tag songs that were formula things we'd insert things in, but the real body of the song. And so that's something that carried over into Sing Around Northwest because you continued to use writers of stuff like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wrote every one of them to familiar tunes, like we did with St. Graham Northwest. But I would interview the sender about the recipient and ask quirks, and what the occasion was, and if they had any nicknames, just anything they could tell me that they'd like included. And then I'd retool.
Yeah.
What was the one? Da 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 da. Those were the days. That seemed to be a standby
Ah,
because it was a ballad. Yeah.
yeah.
And so I could make as many verses as I wanted to those things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it was fun.
I used to use a lot Froggy One at Corton,
Yeah,
because
that's a good
because
one
it had a
too.
nice little hum every time you kind of make a little comic relief. You'd say something funny, then you make like people give them a chance to laugh at the end of the
Yeah.
line and
Yeah.
stuff. I love that song. Used to use that one a lot anyway. So
I remember when Lisa wrote for us, her favorite one was Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
ah,
That was the tune. Oh yeah. No, it's fun. And it's fun to make people's day. When you're acting in a role, yeah, you got to memorize the same role, but when you're delivering a singing telegram you wrote, you usually have the words there in front of you,
yeah,
and you just have to remember what tune you wrote it to,
right.
and you're laughing.
Yeah, I got really good experience in that. Especially before I became a singing waiter, it's kind of like I think I was still a little nervous about performing in front of people and doing singing telegrams and singing waiters. Like you're just right there, and you can see people right in the face, and they're looking you right in the face, and it's like. And honestly, the thing about it was, I realized these are just people. I don't know why I was scared of them or anything, but
Yeah.
it's like these are just people, and they're responding to what I'm doing, and they're enjoying it, and it's just like it just made it so much more easier to perform
Hmm.
because on stage it's almost like the audience is subjected to who was ever on stage, and just in a way you kind of lack some intimacy because of that, you know. But yeah,
Well, yeah, yeah. And for me, I've learned over all these years that I feel vibes. And if there's a lot of people in a room, I feel a lot of vibes. And I have to do all kinds of things not to feel, to be in my space and put a. It's been an interesting ride to try to tune out and tune you into me and not me tune into that audience because
yeah,
there's
yeah,
too many of them out there.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if I'm like you say, one on one, it works better.
yeah.
Works better. Yeah. Um,
Had a
boy.
funny experience like that once, and because we started getting expanding into costuming, you know, people would want to do costumes and things, and somebody asked me that they really wanted to embarrass this guy, so they wanted me to come sing to him in a tutu, you know.
Hello.
So
Oh boy.
we pass on the cost of the costume, you know, to the the price of the message or whatever. But
Well,
I'm
if it's
standing there
after
singing to this guy, and he's starting to get so embarrassed and everything. And I just whispered to him, "Hey, you're not the one standing here in the tutu, so just just give me a couple of minutes here."
what you got to do, yeah. Oh, I've had a few moments like that too. Yeah. I stopped doing like one guy wanted to break up with his girlfriend, and she worked in a bank. That
Oh
was
yikes!
ah.
That's a dangerous territory.
I wrote it really sensitively, but I wanted to go crawl in a hole.
Oh yeah, no
that's
kidding.
that's not what I want to do in life. No.
Yeah,
So I stopped taking those kind of orders,
yeah,
only uplifting.
right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, so the things you learn through your life, I learned a whole lot about myself and performing. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I was in fourth grade, up here they call it grade four, I got sick on stage when I was the angel in a Christmas play. Not fun. I ran off into the curtain and back in the wings, and there I was. And that would have been okay, except for so that was right before Christmas break. Fine, we're gone. Come back. We line up in the school, and there was this little kid in my class. He says, "Oh, you were the girl that puked," and that's all it took. Every day for the rest of the year, I was in the nurse's
oh
station
man.
thinking it was going to happen. I was so self assured until that moment. And I don't know if it, and I'm sure it was, I won't use his name, but when he said that, that just made me so unsure.
Yeah,
So for the rest of my life, I've been working with that unsurety, and it's
yeah,
not a logical thing. Something just went into my core, and so 40 years of every now and then a little more therapy to do, because I've ended up as a soloist for a lot of these
oh
choirs.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, and I thought, how am I going to do this? So, yeah.
Well, thank goodness you had perseverance and you recovered because you know what? That happened to my mother. I don't know if you knew this or not, but I'm one of the few people ever got a chance to hear her sing, and she had an absolutely beautiful voice. She'd sit me on the piano next to her and sing with great abandon. And I would travel to places. I thought this world was a beautiful
Wow.
place, you know. But when she was in grade school, they wanted to, use her for a talent show or something like that. And when it came to her moment to sing, she was so shy that she couldn't tell them she didn't want to do it. And when the
Oh.
moment came and the spotlight was on her, she threw up and ran off the stage, and that was the end of her. That was the end of her career. She never would
Oh,
step back on stage because of that. So
man.
it's like
Well, it turned out I had the flu, so I wasn't
yeah,
nerves, but,
yeah.
you know,
Hers was probably just nerves. She just got so upset.
oh, that's so hard. So I've,
Yeah,
all through my
but
kids' grade school years, I was very attuned to little people in choirs that looked like they weren't doing too well, and I'd run up and kind of take their hand, take them off stage. And I think it's because of that.
oh
And sure
yeah, yeah.
enough, there were
It
some that
saved
were about
save
ready
them
to.
from an aberration there. Yeah, that's right. You don't want to. For people out there listening that goes, "Oh God, I'm not going to perform. That might happen to me." But it's like, don't worry about that kind of stuff. So you kind
No,
of
and you
yeah,
do have to let it go.
yeah,
And that's something I've learned. I've been involved in yoga and And in my spiritual path of Eckankar, I've learned some things, yeah, about letting things go.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's
So
good to use in music too.
yeah, and she touched briefly upon Dorothy Fitzgerald, Portland School of Opera and Related Arts was the whole name for that, and I was introduced to that by a musical I was in with Rod Espy, and
Yeah,
he kept gently encouraged me to come to it because we were doing uh,
Boys
desert,
from
we were doing
Syracuse.
desert song. It was
Oh,
actually
Desert
desert song.
Song, that
Yeah,
was it.
we had that
Desert
whole
Song.
beautiful quartet called the Riff Song or something like that. We did together, but he could hear I had some problems technically because I would, I would sing but I didn't really could hear when I was going out of pitch and stuff like that, and that's something that's kind of a thing that can happen, especially with men. I think, and that your older voices kind of rings into your ear a little bit, and you're hearing yourself kind of from the inside, and you kind of stop listening outside. And I have a little early on things in some of my um, little experts episodes I did with this as kind of how you could focus on, be able to overcome that sort of stuff. But anyway, so
Mhm.
he's the one who introduced me to Dorothy Fisher Jones, and we just sat in on some rehearsals, and I learned the whole part of Leporello just having something to do while I was sitting there listening to the thing, and that was my first opera was Leporello playing his sidekick and everything. But then
Yeah, Don
later
Giovanni.
we got to do we were Papageno and Papagena
That's right,
in the
we
Magic
were.
Loop.
That was fun. That was fun.
Sometimes we would speak to her like "Happy Birthday, Papagena, Papagena" back and forth sometimes on Facebook and things. But this
Yeah,
young lady is like you and Gala. I don't remember her last name, but you guys did Hansel and Gretel. And it was like
yeah.
honestly, that was such a that whole opera and everything was so beautiful, and you guys just nail it so much. And then because you were together, you had so much energy between the two of you. You had so much life to that role. But then
Oh,
they had
thank
this
you.
class of kind of what's the media? What do you call it? Media? Kind of the medium talent of ballerinas and stuff came in and did that whole scene with the
Did the
angels and stuff.
Angel
It's like
Ballet.
I swear that was
Yeah,
some kind of a spiritual spurs. I swear, just watching all that happen with the music and everything was just so incredible, really. So,
it was gorgeous. And Hans Janovitz on the keyboard. Yep,
oh yeah.
that was cool. Man.
I ended up working a lot with him. We did a lot of retirement homes and stuff like that, and he was just willing to,
Oh,
we didn't get paid a whole lot, but he would just delight. He says because I let him do a solo or two. He'd pick something because people just wanted to hear him a lot of times, and he just was
mhm.
very delightful and had a lot to share. And he used to play kitten on the keys a lot.
Yeah, he was fun. He was a lot
Yeah,
of fun. And yeah, that he relaxed everybody sometimes. He would just be him
yeah,
and just kind of hanging out, and there
yeah,
was always something that he did that just relaxed us, I
yeah.
think.
He was the music director, by the way, of the Portland School of Opera and Related Arts, originally from Czechoslovakia, and
Oh,
made his way across. He had to escape Hitler basically, and
hmm,
he was learning Spanish on the boat ride. And his wife Mimi on the way, and they ended up in South America. They ended up going to Panama.
wow.
And he was the first time they had a conservatory there. He was the professor of music for piano and all that kind of stuff. But when he
I'm
first
not
got there, he was
surprised.
playing organ or lessons or whatever he could do. So yeah, he
That's
had to.
cool that Dorothy got together with him.
Yeah,
That's great.
absolutely.
Oh man.
They were a good team. Well, we should probably wrap this up anyway, but I did give you a heads up about that, is in that if there's anything, for a new person or person trying to gain some kind of perspective, is it, like maybe you wish you'd even known earlier or whatever like that, if there's anything you'd like to share like that.
Oh yeah. I the one thing that I wish I would have known earlier is that in singing, it's not making a sound, it's letting a sound happen. And the fact that breathing, as Jamie Wright said, is natural. Don't overthink it. Just practice what's natural, but yet maintain. Do exercises to strengthen your core so that it naturally will um, help you and hold firm while you're singing, so that if it's firm down there below your belly button, that core, um, everything else relaxes. Everything's allowed to relax. And also the dumb IQ. Well, it just works because if you sing, well, let's see, like, Vedrai carino. Well, if you do that, but if you go Vedrai car, you're pushing, you don't have any resonance that you would if you said Vedrai carino. You can just leave it, relax, and everything comes out. It's so amazing. Took me years to figure that one out. And that was, again, during COVID.
Yeah.
So, that, and then yoga. I practice yoga, and there's something they call, it's the first letter of these five essences to look out for. They say, remember Burfois, and it's breathe, relax, feel, watch, and allow. So if you're doing a breathing exercise and you can think about those elements, it helps me to back away from being in the middle of an activity or a trying situation. The breath can help you. And the same with over trying at singing. The relaxed breath can help, or will help. We were doing a yoga exercise this morning where you do a pulsating breath on the out breath, and then we do another one called Nadi Shodhana, where you imagine, well, some people breathe in for one side, then close it, breathe out the other side, and then breathe in and breathe out, and then I get to do it I get so that I do it hands free, and I'm just imagining the prana or the energy going through one side and out the other, and then in one side and out the other. And then he said, let it just diminish. Well, pretty soon it becomes natural when you stop thinking about it. And for the breath with singing. If you practice, what you practice, you become. And so if you practice something strained, you'll become that. If you practice the relaxing of the muscles, all these muscles, and learning techniques that you can do from anybody, but the main goal is to relax it all, you'll become that kind of singer, I think. For young people, that's hard because they want to sound like somebody. Well, I did. And and then the other thing was, and this isn't a singing technique, but it helps. When you're immersed in something and you're feeling a little bit tense because of it, if you can back away, even in my breathing exercises, back away and just try to notice yourself doing it, or notice yourself doing it, and that way you're traveling back in your awareness and you're no longer immersed in the middle of it and uptight. And that gives you more clarity in what you see and hear and feel. Mostly what you feel and hear, I guess, for singing. Because to me, it's a feeling thing that tells me if I'm in the right spot.
Thank you so much.
I hope that wasn't too much.
No, I think there's always some little nuggets and jewels in there, and so it's good to pick up on that stuff. So, well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm gonna stop our recording here, and we're gonna, we'll post this later. And are there any, things you want to send on to me? Any, choir websites or anything like that? Anything you would like to? We'll put that together with this so we can, people can kind of keep touching what you're doing, or
Okie dokie.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if I know the last two concerts we're doing under Bob Cooper's direction. He's retiring this year. We're doing Phantom of the Opera, which is not Lloyd Webber. It's the old movie, and he's curated a series of different bits and pieces of background music that we are just, where the organ would be playing in the silent movies. It's the old one with, what's his name?
You talking about
The
Douglas Fairbanks, or no? Let's
I
see.
think so, yeah. The old black and white video. And
Or
at one point it becomes,
Lone Chaney. It might have been Lone Chaney Senior
I
too.
might be, yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, because I haven't seen it yet. Anyway, that's what we're doing. And then the final one is Bach's B minor mass we're doing in May. So
Cool.
it's really fun. But
Well,
I will also give you some links to stay at home choir. Maybe some
sure.
people might be interested because people from all over the world join with them.
Yeah, anything like that's cool. I'd like to chime in on one of those things sometimes too. Those virtual choir things would be super great.
Yeah, once you join in, they offer workshops through the piece. So it's vocal training. They warm you up with all these neat exercises and give you time to discuss with them too. It's really fun. And
Sounds good.
we have sung with people like Christopher Tin, who uh, conduct or composes music for video games. And who else have we? Lots of well known people. The Swingle Singers for one, and Voces 8. That's a choir that goes around the world. 8 people, beautiful voices. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
great.
Anyway,
Anything
okay.
like that'd be great. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time very much.
Well, thanks, Jack. Good to
Good to
talk
see
to
you.
you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.